So in our last session, we happened to look for a few things, and we discussed about the accounting calendar, and we understand the importance of the accounting calendar. We also discussed about the currency. Again, we discussed types of currencies that we'll find or we will interact with in the system. And also we looked at the description. Halfway or partially we looked at the description, and from today's session we will pick up from where we left. So what we'll do, we will discuss more about the description. And someone saying something? So we discussed and see how we ended up coming up with a code combination. But there is more to understand when it comes to setting up all these company, department, and accounts. So when we are working in the system, you will not find this kind of information being set up for you. It's upon you as a consultant to understand what you need to do so that you can reach out to a certain feature. So what happens is that all this we describe as the code or values. This one we usually call them in the system as segment values. All this information that we are using to create different companies, different departments or cost centers, different accounts. All these we refer to them as segment value, and you cannot have segment values without this level of company accounts, departments, accounts, and projects. This level is very, very, very important. You can't get to the level of segment values without this level of company, departments, accounts, and project. This one, or this level, this one we call them as segments. So we have segment values, and above segment values we have segments. And again, above segments, we don't just get to the segment direct, because we say these are departments. For instance, these are companies that are under them there is the department, and under the department there is accounts. So at the top we have the main company, which we are referring to as KCB group in this case for understanding purposes. Okay, so this company name, we have to maintain it so that we can be able to create segments and segment value. So this company name, we refer to it in the system as organization structure. For us to be able to create segments, we have to have organization structure first. Then for us to be able to create segment values, we have to create segments first. And what makes us, or what will enable us to be able to create organization structure, or in other words, we even call it structure name. also refer to it as structure name. So there is a special feature we usually call key flex field. The key flex field, that's when we can be able to access and be able to create or define these other functionalities. This key flex field, we have it under which application? General ledger. So if you look at the course outline, the one that I've shared, we have mentioned, or it shows that we have to start with the general ledger so that we can go to the other applications. So other applications mostly usually refer to them as subledger application. This is general ledger, general application. This is GL. This is GL. So key flex field, you have to understand all this process of, first of all, having access to the general ledger. Then after having access to the general ledger as a user, that is now the sysadmin when you are doing the implementation. Okay, when you're doing the implementation, you'll have access to the general ledger, and this general ledger you have to understand how to create it as a responsibility. Now after creating the general ledger, that's when you'll go to the feature called key flex field. Through key flex field, you can be able to create organization structure. Then after creating organization structure, you can be able to create segments. After creating segment, you can be able to create segment value. This combination of all these three, better color. This combination will help us to create what we call chart. Chart of accounts, into bracket, C. So there's no way we'll have a chart of accounts without having these three with us. Okay. So chart of accounts, for you to create a chart of account, you need organizational structure, you need segments, and you need segment values. So what happened is that once you have been able to create chart of account, you can be able to record a transaction in the GL, but it's not only with the chart of account alone. So what happens, yellow, we discussed about calendar, we discussed about currency, these two, sorry. When we discussed about the date, we ended up coming up with accounting calendar. Then we ended up discussing about the currency and understood the types of currency we can be able to use. Again, now we have described or discussed about the description, and through understanding what is the description, we have ended up coming up on how we can create chart of accounts. So in our learning right now, we have another keyword which is key feature, which is chart of accounts. So here we will not write description. Here we will not write date. But out of the discussion, understanding the date and understanding the description, they ended up giving us accounting calendar and chart of accounts. Currency, we already have it. Okay. Currency, accounting calendar, chart of accounts, these two we have to create. But for currency, usually enable. It's already in the system. These two we create. That's why it is important to discuss them in this length so that you can understand how do you create chart of accounts. So with chart of accounts, these you can say we have, if you remove this name, you can be able to conclude we have three C's. Okay, you have three C's, and with these three C's having been created or defined, two of them have been defined, and we go ahead and enable the currency. Here, remember we enable the functional currency or all the currencies that you might find you are using, but you have to start with the functional currency. Once we have been once we enable the currency and we create the calendar, remember that's accounting calendar, and we create chart of accounts, we can be able to go ahead and create something we call primary ledger. Okay, we can create something we call the primary ledger. Primary ledger is the main ledger that a business may choose to be reporting its operation in, so that at the end of the day, you can have your main, it's like this is the main ledger. Okay, this is the main ledger for the business, and there's no way you can transact without having the primary ledger, so that you can be able to have a reporting structure. So with these three C's, you can be able to book a transaction in the primary ledger through general ledger. So what happens is you can be able to have a transaction that will go to the general ledger, but when transactions are coming from other applications, remember we talked about GL, AP, AR, cash management, fixed asset, PO, and so on. Okay. So who can remember how do we refer these as? Somewhere I mentioned. What are these? Remove GL here. Is there anyone who can remember? Please come up again.
Subledgers.
Exactly. These are the subledgers. These are the subledgers. The subledgers, they feed the general ledger with the data that is flowing from this application. So with these three C's, we can be able to book a transaction in the general ledger application, having created the primary ledger. but we cannot book a transaction on from the subledger applications so that we can be able to update the general ledger. Remember, the moment we post or we transfer information from subledger, like I think I was demonstrating the P2P process. What is this? So for information to flow here, let me use this one. For information to flow to GL, we have to transfer it from these other subledgers so that it can flow here down. So what I'm saying is we can be able to book transaction in the general ledger having created the primary ledger, but we cannot be able to book a transaction in subledger accounts. So what happens? There is one feature called accounting method. Okay. So through the accounting method, this one we select. This one we don't create. This one is seeded, and we ended up coming with 4 C's. Okay, we end up coming with 4 C's, and with 4 C's, Oracle gave the second C or the first C from let me unbold the whole of it, or maybe I color it. Okay, the first C is the one that was added to create or to form 4 C's, which will enable transactions to be booked in the subledger It's very much important to understand all this. So basically, the idea here is to understand how we can come up with the primary ledger. Having understood how we can come up with the primary ledger, you can be able now to go ahead and start building in the system. But before that, without knowing whether you are supposed to start with the accounting calendar, whether the currency is being created or it's being defined, whether the description has to be created or it has to be enabled, it's very much important this kind of discussion to be held so that you can be able to understand all this. Because the moment you have your ledger, that's when you can start to book transaction in the system. Is there any question? Any question? So between the segments and segment values, which one do we create first? We agreed. If you don't ask me question, I'll ask. This one we can also call it accounting key threads field. Which one do we create first between segments and segment values? Anyone, please? Feel free. If you don't ask question, it will be hard if we go to the next level if you don't understand this, basic level.
You start with segments because you will be using the segments to define the segment values.
Exactly. So we have said this is the structure that we have, or the key feature that we have, and through this feature, that's where we can be able to access the definition of the organization structure and segments. After the segment, that's when we'll go to the segment values. And between general ledger and accounting key flex field, which one do we create and which one do we, just find it in the system?
Hi, Sosmas, can you please repeat the question? I think you cut.
I'm
breaking.
I'm asking between the general ledger and the accounting key flex field, which one do we define and which one do we find in the system?
I think you define the flex field and general ledger is already in the system. I think.
No, general ledger is the module. Remember, this is the application. This is the application. Okay, but accounting key flex field, this is a feature that you will find in the system seeded. This one will come with the instance. Now you will just use it to reach out to the functionality of organization structure, where you will define segments and segment values. But the application, we don't get the instance with the applications with us. We have to define the responsibility. Remember, we said that for you to be, for a user to be able to access the functionality of an application, maybe this one might be confusing by calling it an application. Let me call it responsibility. Okay. We talked about responsibility, and we said that for a user to be able to access the instance or the application, there must be the username and there must be the password. Once they log in the system, they will go and find the responsibilities. But they will only find the responsibilities which will help them to define other responsibilities. For instance, once they log in, the only responsibility they will get is the responsibility for system administrator. Through the responsibility of system administrator, that's where we will get to be able to define the other responsibilities. Through the other responsibilities, one of it is general ledger. And through the general ledger, now when we are defining the responsibility, we give it the quality or the features of general ledger application. Remember, we agreed we have all these modules, applications with their own different features. Like the features you find in AP, you will not find the same features in general ledger or in account receivables or in cash management. So we have to define the responsibility before I think this one I had not mentioned. But we have to define the responsibility before you can be able to give it or assign it to the user. But assigning to the user, that one I explained, and I remember very well, I explained that a user will need the responsibility. Like the way we say, someone in a hotel will need to order so that he can, or he or she can receive the food or the coffee or tea. So responsibility we usually define, but for the key flex field, we don't define. So those kind of try to think outside the box. Try to understand how do we do this? How do we achieve this? With that one, you'll be able to see a bigger picture, or even come up with a discussion that will make you understand. Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear on my side.
So having understood that, I want to take you through a bit of high level of how the instance look. I know some of you have been working with it, and probably others are new. But for us to continue discussing this, I want you to have a taste of how the responsibility, the menu, and the submenu. What are we referring to? The features and functions, So I'm gonna log into the instance. So this is the login page. In the login page, you will need the URL. I think that one I mentioned, and this is how the URL look like. So for each and every instance, you will be receiving a different URL from the DBA so that you can be able to log in with it. So in this case, we have the username, or we have the URL, and we need now the username and the password. In our case, we log in with sysadmin and also the password. There is some data in this instance that it was created for the purpose of learning by Oracle and for the purpose of other uses like demo. So you'll find when you are doing demo for clients so that they can have a taste on the product, on what we're talking about. This is the instance that you find we use. Or probably if the client wants some more customized, solution, you can talk with Oracle so that they can come up with a more friendly instance that will suit the demo of the client. So these are some of the things that you might find you need to kind of negotiate with the client versus the application vendor, who is Oracle in this case. So what I'm talking about, this is the landing page. You can see it has some features you can be able to interact with, but all these are customized, like it's a user setup. So you can work with, you can place the favorite features or favorite, functions on the landing page so that you can have a quick access when you're working. But for this case, I just wanted to give you a very high level of understanding on what we are talking about. Like for instance, I discussed about the instance, and the instance we'll be working with it's good for you to have a feel, because I'll be sharing this, or rather I'll share this URL, but I will be changing the password regularly, like weekly. You'll be getting new password each and every week. So try to utilize the time. Once you receive the password, you practice as much as possible whatever we'll be learning, and also make sure that where you are not clear, you can always refer to either the recorded videos, or you can just get in touch with me. So when we talk about the menu, what happens is that we cannot be able to see the menu when we are working with the system, but we can be able to see the submenu. So what does that mean? When I click something like general ledger super user, okay, when I click it, see the system will prompt a new window, and under that new window it has more option to select. So this option to select, these are the ones that we call the submenu. And this submenu, we have both submenu. You can find you have submenu and the features at the same level. So what's the difference between a submenu and a feature? A feature or a function will help you to go to the final page or window which you can execute a transaction. For instance, if you want to book an invoice, that is supplier invoice or purchase invoice, if you click on the the entry feature, you'll find it has opened you the invoice workbench, and I will show you that. Once it has opened the invoice workbench, you can go ahead and book the transaction. But when it comes to the submenu, under submenu, there are other submenus or there are features, so that you can continue to go down and drill to the final feature that it's all held by that submenu. So for instance, if I click on currency, you can see there is revaluation and translation. So these two, they look the same. You can see here, they have some graphical, icons on their left. But if you can see this one here down, the icon on General Ledger Command Center versus this one on evaluation and translations, they are completely different. I hope you can see the difference. This one looks like a page. This one looks like graphical or some kind of a form. So this one will open in Oracle Forms, and this one will open in web page. And web page, it means like it's like it will open on a browser. But this one, which are showing the graphical kind of icon, these are, or they will open on Oracle Forms. Both this one and this one, they are features or they are functions. Below them, there is no any other thing that you can drill down, or there is no any other option you can select and drill down so that you can be able to maybe conduct any transaction. So if you click on evaluation, this is how the system prompts you to open the Java forms. And there are some may need some configuration. So if you happen to encounter any challenge when opening the Java form, please make sure you let me know. Okay. So this is how the Java Forms looks like. Okay. You can be able now to go ahead and book a transaction or record anything in this kind of window. See, they are calling it revolution, and it's under vision operation. So this is how the Java Forms looks like. But if we want to see, for instance, the ones that was opening or was showing the kind of web page graphical icon, you should see, for example, the General Ledger Command Center. If I click on it, you see it has taken me to the web page. So you'll need to conduct any business if there is any on the web. It's like opening as a web page. So you can be able to see the difference. For instance, I can go back and open something like I'll give you an example with journals. Assume we want to book a journal. Once you click on entry, it comes and open the Oracle form. So I want you to understand that difference. So what happens is, if you click on a certain submenu, all these, the ones that you can see, there is a plus icon on the left. It means it has some, you can be able to expand and be able to see what is, or be able to drill what is below that submenu. So you will not be able to see the menu of the general ledger on this kind of face. But when we are defining the general ledger as a responsibility or module, you'll be able now to assign the menu to that general ledger responsibility, so that it can give you all these submenus and the features that are related to the general ledger. The same case applies to accounts payable. The same case applies to accounts receivables. The same case applies to purchasing, inventory. All the responsibility has their own and unique menu. And menu is like, it gives the uniqueness or the features related to, or the characteristics that relates to that application or that module that you are defining. And I said, you might find there are clients who don't need to use all the application, because, for instance, Oracle has so many, like thousands of applications. But majorly you might find the financials are being used and probably the purchasing. But there are some who doesn't use for instance, the application for manufacturing, because you might be conducting a business that handles finance, but it's not necessarily has to do with manufacturing. So it is very, very much important, once we start learning how to define the responsibility, you get to understand, okay, it's a one-time setup. So sometimes you don't have to keep memorizing, but it's good to understand once you are setting up what is the name for the menu for a certain responsibility, because there are sometimes you might need to do some adjustment when working with the client, and you find like it is important to query that menu so that you can add these features, some of the features that we customize. There are sometimes we customize the features so that it can suit the need of a client. So I hope you have understood that. Is there any question?
None from my side.
So we've been able to log in. We've been able to have a feel of how the system look like. But as we continue learning, you'll find you'll be able to get to understand all other features or functionalities of what you can be able to achieve with what you are seeing here up. Each and everything has its own work and purpose. Okay. But as we continue learning, that's when you start feeling the beauty of it, because that's when you'll be working with it. Okay. That's when you'll be working with it. For instance, if I want to get out of general ledger module, there must be a way. There must be a way of doing that or achieving that. So what you're supposed to do, you can even hover your cursor along or over these features, and you'll find if the feature is not active, you cannot use it. But if a feature is active, you can be able to execute some functionality with it. For instance, there is these two which are active here. I think even for paste and edit field. So you can be able to see features that are active, and you can be able to maybe probably take action. So if, for instance, I want to change from general ledger to AP or accounts payable or accounts receivable, you can see here there is a feature that is, if I point on it, it's telling me switch responsibility. So it means if I come here, I can be able to select the responsibility that I want to switch to. So here you can search. Probably you might not be able to see it here, and you want to have a quick search. For instance, because like system admin is here down because they are arranged in alphabetical order. I don't need to scroll down like this way. You know, scroll down. It's somehow less slow. You can come and select. Type sys or even system. Then percentage. Then you press enter on your keyboard. So you'll be able to see anything that has to do with the name system. Okay, and you can come and select, for instance, system administrator. And you click or you say okay. So the responsibility will switch from the general ledger to system administrator. Okay, these are what we call responsibilities. All these are the responsibilities, and a user once they have been assigned to a user can be able to go ahead and take action or execute any form of business transaction based on the nature of the responsibility. Again, if a user is not assigned this responsibility, we say that they cannot be able to access this that function or execute the given function. Is there any question?
Nothing on my side, source.
So I want to take you through how to create a user. so that at least we can be able to start feeling the usage of the system, especially for the new ones who are interacting with the system for the first time. We usually, once we log in, or the moment the DBA share the username, not even the username, the URL, is share the username, then they share the password. Basically, for flash instances, they share sysadmin. This is the password that comes from the system. I mean, from the vendor. It is Oracle. Sysadmin. Okay. Once they share these details, of course, the URL will be there. And this admin information will be shared to the lead consultant or the lead implementer who will be implementing the solution. For instance, if let's say you are the head consultant and you're the one expected to build all the system until it ends, especially the finance. There are things you'll find have to be defined in finance. There are some will have to be defined by. That means it will be the ones that will be defined in finance or will be set up by the finance consultant. It means a finance consultant has to be in charge. Again, when it comes to features that needs to be defined by HR, a HR consultant has to be in charge. There are also functions that has to be defined in purchasing. So we must have a purchasing consultant who will do the setup or define those functionalities so that the system can become complete. Again, this one depends on the product that the client wants to consume. You might find like maybe there are some client who want only finance without order management. They want finance without inventory. They want finance without planning. They want finance without each other. Maybe they are not utilizing purchasing. You'll not find like every client is doing the P2P cycle. Why is it? You will not find every client is doing this P2P cycle, because to them, probably what they feel is important is only finance or recording financial transaction. But you'll find the moment they continue, you continue advising them on the best use and best utilization of the system, and maybe even for answering audit queries that probably might be giving them headache, you might end up finding that you are advising them to go the full P2P cycle so that they can be able to avoid some of the audit query. Because the moment you'll be asked, you have the system, it has the capability of raising a PO and matching that PO with the goods that you receive. Then after you receive or you receipt in the inventory, you can go ahead and match the PO with invoice. But you'll find their client, for their own reason or for the purpose of avoiding, openness, the system have this capability of raising the PO, raising LFQs receiving quotes, doing quote analysis, raising purchase order, getting that purchase order approved. They issue that purchase order to the supplier, then supplier supplies good and they receive goods, but they don't want to use this function for their own reason. So what am I saying is, you might find the responsibilities will be created based on the need of the client, but it's always good to give them the best approach. That level, I talked about the work of a functional consultant. One is to gather requirements. In that stage of gathering requirements, that's where you'll also advise the business, because you have to create a solution document. We call it solution design document. That solution design document, you map the requirements of the client with what the system can be able to do. So, and that's why you'll tell them that you can use the purchasing order and have a whole cycle of P2P, but you don't have to force them to take it. All right. So another point I wanted to bring a close is about, once you log in as a sys admin, you will find this responsibility we are calling system administrator. Okay. And through the system administrator, that's where you can be able to create so many functions. Even right now, when you will be practicing, there are so many, the basis of what you will be learning, you will have to start with this responsibility. This is the responsibility that you can only find seeded or already defined by the owner of the product, so that you can be able to use it to create other responsibilities. But you start with the user, because you might find some of the executions you don't have to always use the system administrator function. Because, for instance, if you want to create the financial or define the financials, you will need to assign those financials to a finance person, so that at the end of the day, the finance person can go ahead and test and say that it's true what you told me, like you mapped in the solution design document that I can be able to create an invoice. It's possible. So they will go ahead and test. But basically, what you need to understand, the module that you will find seeded in the sysadmin application or sysadmin user, you'll find it already defined and assigned, because we agreed like a user has to have a responsibility for them to be able to execute some functionality. So the sysadmin user, this one, has to find that responsibility of system administrator assigned to them. Has to find that responsibility of the system administrator assigned to them, so that they can start building or setting up the system. And the moment now they start setting up the system, that's when you can be able to use the system. So is there any question before I create? Probably no question. So one thing that we'll be doing, you have to note down the navigation. Navigation is very much important, because like I have said, we have submenus, and under submenus we have features and functions, or features or functions. So understanding the navigation is very key when we are learning, because this is what will help you to always get back to where you want to execute some functionality. So in this case, these tabs you can expand, you can minimize, you can collapse, and all that. Okay, this addition and plus. Okay, it's for the purpose of expanding and collapsing the submenus. So what we usually do, once we log in the system, you select the system administrator module or responsibility. And I've showed you, if you want to query something fast, put a percentage in front of it and a percentage, then provide the name of that responsibility, or maybe it could be something you're searching, not only the responsibility. You could be on the web page and you know the name of a certain feature that you want to look for, or you want to achieve, or to to work with. But if you say like you scroll manually, it will take you forever for you to be able to achieve or to reach where it is. So there is this shortcut whereby you are supposed to, you can use the percentage in front and you provide the name of that. You can provide the first name. If you don't get, or if you want to filter to the specific name, or to the specific, let me call it the name, you can provide the next name that is after the first name, but in between put the percentage. Okay, for instance, if I search for system and press enter, pressing enter is a shortcut of using your cursor and coming here and select OK. So for instance, if I come here and select OK, sorry, I had to remove the cursor. It's supposed to be OK. You click on find, not OK. So you'll find the system will give you the names of all responsibility, or the names that have the system name featuring in it. So it's upon you now to go. At least it has minimized the level of querying that you could have used. So if you want to be specific, you want, like, for instance, system administrator, you can provide the name like this way. We have system percentage admin. If there is anything that has admin, more than one, like system administrator and system, more than just system administrator, it will give you, so that you can choose now in between the two. You see, for instance, we have system administration and we have system administrator. So this feature is for helping you to be able to minimize your filtering when you're querying for some information. So that is it. And now, for instance, let me go back to the features before I start creating the user. This is system administrator. Let's say, for instance, I want to search something. I want to go back to see, when I was querying or looking for the system administrator responsibility, the switch responsibility was active. Okay, but now it's not. I wanted you to see the difference. You see now the icon for adding a new, it's active. For instance, say find. Okay. In that level, it was active because you could add some more, some more record. It has room for you to add some more record. But when we are in this level, you cannot add new record, meaning these features are disabled. So this is what I was saying. You'll be able to achieve whatever you want, or the system will activate whatever can be achieved in whichever level you are working with. So note that difference. So if I go back to the navigator, this one we call it the navigator because it helps us to navigate from one responsibility to the other. So under security, that's where we create the user. Let me collapse it. So there are so many submenus here, and you can see with the additional plus or additional sign, sorry. So the security name or the security submenu, that's where we expand it so that we can be able to go to the feature for creating a user. So navigation is, you have to, when you're providing navigation, you don't just go straight to where the submenu is. When you are even preparing document, note this well, we start with responsibility. Okay. We start with the responsibility, and with the responsibility, we abbreviate it as like that. Okay. Then navigation, we abbreviate it as something of the sort. So navigation is important. First, you have to give the responsibility name. System. So you don't have to give the whole name sometimes, but it's good to be specific because there are some names of the responsibility they could be, tying. They could be tying on each other. And I plug my PC.